Spider-Man is one of the few superheroes that transcends pop culture and ventures into the realms of the general shared human experience. Every 7-year-old dude has either Spidey sheets, wallpaper, pajamas, or underoos. Spider-Man has the proven ability to resonate with new audiences, generation after generation. There are so many reasons why that is, but I'm not here to talk about the underdog theory or relatability. Today, I'm here to talk about his hotly debated first ever costume. Not that one, this one. Welcome to the channel. Hit like and press subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Spider-Man debuted on the pages of Amazing Fantasy number 15 in a 10-page origin story written by Stan Lee with art by Steve Ditko in 1962. Those two gentlemen are the ones credited with the creation of the character, but many people feel like a man named Jack Kirby should also be included with them. As the story goes, Stan Lee had an idea for the character, so he brought it to the co-creator of Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Captain America, and the X-Men. That man was the previously mentioned Jack Kirby. It needs to be mentioned that this was back before proper credit was given to comic book creators. Also, you may want to consider the fact that Stan Lee has been accused by many people over the years for taking way more credit than he deserves, doing so by means of abuse of power, or whatever. Only these lads know the real story, but as the legend goes, Stan pivoted and went with another artist to pencil Spider-Man's first appearance. That artist was a guy named Steve Ditko. Jack Kirby claims that he was the dude that drew the initial concept for the web-slinging superhero and that he just passed it off to Steve to use in the book. There's no proof of this other than the fact that Jack Kirby was a very honorable man with a rock-solid reputation. I don't believe he'd have any reason to lie about such a thing. Oh, and also, Jack Kirby drew the cover of Amazing Fantasy number 15. Jack's version of Spider-Man was quite literally the public's first interpretation of Peter Parker's alter ego. But I said we're not here to talk about this costume. We're here to talk about this costume. The New York Post actually did a great story about this in 2015. I know, it's the New York Post, blah, 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 but it sums up the discovery and acquisition of this yellow Spider-Man suit really well. Quote, back in 2006, comic book and toy dealer John Cimino bought a collection from a seller who needed money for a new hot water heater. Within the assortment of pop culture oddities for which Cimino paid $500 was a cheap rayon and cotton Halloween costume from the 1960s featuring Spider-Man. After reading a book about mid-century collectibles, Cimino, 41, re-examined his Ben Cooper costume and quickly became obsessed with the company. Ben Cooper was the name of the company that made that costume. I started digging deeper, he says. I dug and dug and dug, and he continued researching the company. He came across catalogs from the 1950s, and one particular image left him scratching his head. There, in one 1954 circular, was an offering for a Spider-Man costume that looked slightly different than the one he had just purchased. The get-up had a Spider-Man logo on the chest and a distinctive web pattern across the bodysuit and face mask. In other words, it immediately called to mind Marvel Spider-Man, who wouldn't be introduced for another 8 years. Cimino, however, thought the costume was simply a prototype and was never actually produced. Until, that is, he got a call from a seller who once owned a 5 and dime store and said that he had some leftover inventory in an old barn. Stashed among the piles were a few old Ben Cooper costumes, including that mysterious Spider-Man one from 1954. I saw it, he said, and I thought, holy shit, it does exist. I didn't jump around, but I was shitting my pants. End quote. Ben Cooper was a company that started in the 30s producing costumes for theater but transitioned to Halloween costumes by the 1950s. As we learned from that article, their Spider-Man came out 8 years before Marvel's version. The similarities are striking. Full face mask, all over print web design on the bodysuit, and most importantly, the name. It's not just a similar name, it's the exact same name. There is no doubt that this is the very first version of Spider-Man ever created. 1954, bro. But how is there no insane lawsuit over this? This could have been worth billions. But more importantly, who is the true creator of Spider-Man? I'm going to try my best to unravel this complicated web as best as I can for you. After that, we're going to take a closer look at the finer details of the actual first ever Spider-Man costume. This is all very exciting stuff. But you know what else you should take a closer look at? That like button. There's a little animation that plays when you hit it. I've seen 2 versions so far, a version with a clapboard and a version with a smiley face. So hit like and comment which animation you got in the comment section down below. Let's start with the how. How is there no lawsuit? Well, all of this is speculation, but it holds up to scrutiny in my opinion. Notice how Spider-Man is written with a hyphen? Well, that wasn't always the case. On the cover of Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spider-Man's name is presented without a hyphen. By his next appearance for the Amazing Spider-Man number 1, boom, hyphen. Now, take a look at the Ben Cooper costume from the 1950s. No hyphen, right? Okay, interesting. Keep that one in your back pocket. Remember the first batch of costumes that Cimino bought? That collection had a more traditional 60s red and blue licensed Spider-Man costume, albeit with a little bit of yellow. This more traditional Spider-Man was also made by Ben Cooper. Turns out this was one of, if not the actual very first piece of Marvel licensed merchandise. Only 3 of these bad boys are known to still exist today. So these clues have led theorists to believe that a deal was struck between Ben Cooper and Marvel for Marvel to be able to use the character and for Ben Cooper to have license to sell the costume. With that agreement in place, some people speculate that Marvel would add the hyphen to the name. I don't know if I buy the hyphen explanation, but the other part definitely passes the smell test. I'm no copyright lawyer, but I don't think that adding a hyphen is considered to be sufficient enough of a change to win a possible legal dispute. That's just more speculation though. The fact that Ben Cooper produced Marvel's first ever licensed product in this Spidey suit is all the circumstantial evidence that I need to believe a deal was struck between the 2 New York companies in order to keep this out of the courts and the legal system. And now for the who. Who do I think came up with the OG Spider costume? Well, here's where it goes from an interesting story to a full-blown conspiracy theory. As it turns out, Ben Cooper records were destroyed in a 1989 fire, but rumor has it that Jack Kirby worked at Ben Cooper during the time the Spider-Man costume was created. That's right, Jack Kirby worked for Ben Cooper. You see, Jack worked in comics before World War II. Then he served in World War II. When he returned to America, it is believed that he got a job designing these costumes, which led him back to freelancing before settling back into a permanent role in comics. It really seems to me that Jack created Spider-Man in the 50s, briefly mentioned it at Marvel in the 60s, just for Stan Lee to overhear it and then quickly blurt out, "I just came up with a wonderfully creative, totally original concept for a character all on my own. Imagine, if you will, a man with the powers of a spider. I shall call him Spider-Man. I am a genius. Bow down before me, Jack Kirby. Lick my toes." All roads lead back to Kirby. Although his name doesn't line the pages of Spider-Man to this day, I believe Jack Kirby is the true creator of Spider-Man, hyphen or not. The rabbit hole goes deep with all 3 of these dudes. I fear we'll never know the truth. Only they knew it, and they took it to their grave. They're all dead now, bro. That's just how she goes. Okay, right. With that story out of the way, now let's inspect and appreciate the full glory of the very first ever Spider-Man costume. First, the bodysuit. Okay, in this picture we see Cimino holding the box that the Spider-Man costume was in, standing there with a person wearing the Spider-Man costume. And you gotta say, this thing is insane looking. Let's just take a look at the bodysuit itself. There are many similarities, also many differences, to the actual Spider-Man look we all know and love today. The all-over print of the web is something that carried over to the Marvel version. The dual tone, like the different color of the arms to the torso, that design element carried over. The little spider logo on the chest, that carried over as well, but the one on the yellow version is pictured like over the heart, whereas Marvel put it in the center. The original licensed version over here is laid out on the floor, and this version of it has Spider-Man written with a hyphen along the collarbone. But most interestingly, it carries over the yellow color from that 1954 version. Now, let's take a look at the mask. There's a couple different versions of this mask, and it's very confusing to me. First, let's go back to the one in the picture with Semino and the person wearing it. The mask looks like a bag being worn over the head. It has a very rectangular, maybe almost triangular shape to it, where Spider-Man is written across the forehead without a hyphen. It's got the all-over web print as well, and the web print on the mask is very similar to the web print on the Marvel mask. The exposed nose and eyes looks very, very funny, almost haunting even. But here's where I get a little bit confused, because here's this version of the yellow costume, and here it is laid out side by side with the licensed version, and the mask is completely different. The mask is no longer that bag over your head type thing. It's literally a spider web with an elastic band that just goes like around your ears or whatever, with only eye holes, nothing for the nose, and then it has like a Spider-Man crown sitting on top of that. And the reason why I'm very confused by it is because in the picture of Semino standing with somebody wearing that costume, the costume has that bag over the head type thing. And then when we take a look at the picture of Semino with his kid with the costumes in the box, it's clear the mask is the other one. If anybody knows the differences between these two original Spider-Man masks, I need to know, because it's a pretty crucial detail. And that, my friends, is the true story of the birth of Spider-Man. He was initially yellow, and Jack Kirby definitely created him, although the history books will never say that. We may never get confirmation of any of this, but there are too many coincidences for me to believe otherwise. Also, the Ben Cooper offices were quite literally only a few blocks away from Marvel's. Do you mean to tell me two people within that close of a vicinity came up with the exact same idea for a character, the exact same name for a character, with very, very similar costumes for that character? I don't know if I believe all that, bro. Jack Kirby definitely did all that. And Stan Lee just exploited the shit out of him. I don't want to turn this into a Stan Lee hit piece, and I'm about to, so that means it's time for me to wrap it up. Not only is Jack Kirby responsible for Spider-Man, he's responsible for the entire comics industry and storytelling conventions that we all associate with the medium today. This yellow Spider-Man rabbit hole is only just one of the many indicators of that. Okay, cool. Press subscribe to become an I Hate Jeffer, ring the bell to get notified when I drop. Thanks for watching or whatever.